We have turn 4 of the Korean War here. The UN have stepped up mobilisation, meaning they can now have 2 amphibious invasions a turn. That's brought them up another column on the global tension table, but as yet still no possibility of actual increase in global tension. They've got a significant amount of air forces in play now, so they are performing restricted movement in Gyeonggi and right down here in the near Busan. So I just need to put this. So the idea for the Gyeonggi restricted movement is for reinforcements coming through, and also because it gives us a ×2 for the interdiction table. Basically, the further north your interdiction goes, the more efficient it's going to be, or the greater likelihood it's going to interrupt the supply of the North Koreans. And in fact, they were successful in that, in that the North Koreans have got a limited offensive, and the UN are on accelerated, limited commitment, they call it, sorry, an accelerated commitment. So this means that the Americans can actually attack with 1.5 combat value if they get to do some attacks. They might this turn. They've got a full division with full armour complement, a brigade with armour complement, and a marine regiment with armour complement there. So I'm just about to deploy those into some into Busan, and then I think we will keep this for amphibious invasion. Now we only have Busan and Daegu as the UN, but because the UN's at initiative level 2 and the North Koreans are only at initiative level 1, the UN's going to get initiative, so they will get the first move. We also, reinforcement rolls that the Republic of Korea can also reinforce now, but both sides' reinforcement rolls was 0, so no reinforcements of divisions in that way. What else is there? Oh yes, and the UN can declare nationalist Chinese intervention. I'm not going to do that because that would add a +1 to the global tension roll, which would mean a 1 in 10 chance from now on of us at this level of commitment bringing in increasing global tension. So I'm going to hold off that. It's looking tight, but I want to keep the possibility of global tension down. I think I don't know. Sort of the pros and cons of that. If you bring it in, you then might want to keep levels of commitment down. If you don't bring them in, it kind of gives you a bit more freedom to increase commitment. And I think it's obvious, really, if you think about it, but I only just sort of properly realised that there's a real benefit to being able to interdict a bomb north of the 38th parallel, because you get a great increase in any interdiction result, which is really going to hamper the North Korean supplies. Okay, not when they get the intervention, but I think it might be worth raising that level just so that we can get some more of that when we can. It's too late to do that now, but I think that's what I'm going to do next turn. Oh, quick update. I actually made a mistake. I forgot the UN is still on a special column on their supply table, so they're actually on limited commitment, not accelerated commitment. So in fact, they only got 1 supply point. So in fact, that's important. The North Koreans are going to get the first move. Well, we're halfway through this first action phase. Very interesting critical situation. essentially this UN division has fought off attack after attack after attack. The trouble is the first units to reach it, North Korean units to reach it, were fairly weak. I think that's, yeah, that one was under there. And in fact it moved up from Busan and attacked a North Korean division there, knocked it down to strength. But then the North Koreans sent one division round here. They had a first attack with a number of divisions which failed. They sent another. The trouble is that because the units to get there, they had to spend some of the movement, so they had they spent certain action points, didn't get intensive or all-out attacks. And the one that went round here is just out of range of the supply, so it's half strength. And that one was obliterated. They rolled low, and they didn't get armour because this fellow's got good anti-armour capability and an armour in there, giving more anti-armour capability. They rolled low, and then combined with the UN air support, that was a D3 result which completely obliterates their division. So they sent another one from here, that same result, obliterated. So 2 tanker sets were saved because they were just within extended range, but not they were in secondary range, but at limited commitment for the offences. It was half attack value, so they were attacking at half value. So the UN still have a division to bring in on a possible amphibious invasion. They used one to bring this fellow in here, so he still isn't activated, but effectively he blocked that, which meant that another regiment was able to come forward and block here. Because the North Koreans decided to begin by trying to take this one out. If this one had moved up, it wasn't going to get a good attack against 2 strong UN regiments that were there. So they forfeited Busan to try and take Daegu, which is their objective. They take that and they won the game. They hold it for an action cycle. That's why they sent in 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 attacks against, I think 3 attacks, all failed. So they've left a garrison here. They've got a couple of units here, but and it's now the American response. So an interesting situation. The North Koreans have to decide. Having lost 2 whole divisions there, they're really weak. Not relative to the UN, but for being a tenuous stretch of their supply line. If they did bring their depot closer, the chances are that they're going to get no supplies from it because of the air interdiction. So it's difficult. It's just a long way to get all the way down. Well, okay, they got that down to here. So the UN need to take back Musan and hold them off from Daejeon. If they do eventually take that, at least they'll have Musan, which will stop North Korean automatic victory. So I'm thinking a bold stroke here to push this back, so we don't have to worry about the threat here. Then we need, but I also need to take that out. The question is, can that do it? This one's got an armour asset, it could do it. There's an armour asset here as well. Yes, if this one moves here, takes this one out, then that would release this one to move up here, join in and attack on that one. I think that has to be the way to do it. Okay, no, we couldn't do it. So, but this one took the Marines here with armour assets, took out the garrison there, and then moved on to block here. But this one's going to have to stay here for a moment because we've got 2 divisions here. If one of these divisions takes out the Marines, the other could scoot around and immediately take back Musan. We can't risk having both of these in North Korean hands. Or one of these being in both North Korean hands, because then they would only need to take one more. We need to keep both. So the other activation, I brought in amphibious invasion into Busan. which would then mean that if one of these divisions get here, we've got a powerful force that is likely to be able to drive them back out again straight away. If they don't manage to do that, it's available to go up, take this one out, or go up to reinforce here. It really is difficult choices for the North Koreans. So yes, they destroyed Marines and the assets there. They will get reconstituted eventually. But you see, if he moves in here, he's going to be out of a supply range, so he'll be defending on 2. He's more or less going to be destroyed by that one moving up. So the question the North Korean here is facing is, do I sacrifice units to kind of as diversions and then maybe have a greater advantage on another side? The UN have 2 more Marine regiments, which 6-4 attack and defense strength. They can bring in next turn, so they could come straight into Pusan, which is really going to leave Pusan safe, so this division is free to roam. But then if he goes there, then the North Koreans are likely to take this next turn. So I think if the North Koreans do not take this, then they're going to leave the UN with 2 of their objectives. Best to take, but if I take that, the UN still have 2 because they'll move in and destroy that. So I think I'm not going to activate that one. I'm going to activate a reinforcement while I decide what else is possible. So the decision now is whether to reinforce here or on this side of the mountains and the Namgang River. So do I reinforce this thrust or this thrust? I opted for going for this thrust, but in fact he's in a midway position, so next cycle he could go either way. So fortune is favouring the UN. The North Vietnamese had 2 more units to activate. They activated 1 here. And, oh, hang on a sec. Yeah, I was forgetting some of the modifiers, and that he's on extended range, so at half attack value. So anyway, I thought he was reduced, but no, in fact, he's just no effect. So that's failed attack. And the UN just got a 0 on their operations, which means no operation back to the VK and NK. It's quite nice. Sometimes it's nice, depending on the situation, if you don't get an operation, because you either have to do something or pass. And if you want to kind of wait and see what the opponent's doing, that can be useful. To get a 0, not have to pass or do something you would rather do later. So at the end of the action cycle, the UN managed to beat back here with a heavy armoury reinforced division there. They had a great attack here. By great, I mean they rolled high on the die, which obliterated the North Korean division there. There's still a bit sticky around here. But basically they've got a perimeter, they're holding Pusan. Really this perimeter should be a bit further, but at least they've got Musan as well, and Taegu. So we've got another action cycle of game turn 4 to do, but I'm going to have to go to work now, so I have to stop the video. And maybe I'll do a quick one just to recap at the end of turn 4.